Hello, everyone. Can everyone hear me? Hi, can everyone hear me? All right, awesome. So good to see everybody here. So let me just give you a quick background as to who I am and what we're going to be learning today. So my name is Giri. I go by GPal. I'm a self-taught programmer. I enjoy teaching and learning programming, and for the last 4 to 5 weeks, I've been teaching programming regularly at 2:30 EST every weekend. And one of the things that I think a lot about teaching, and there are 3 principles that guide these classes. The first is that we learn best by practice. And what that means is that I'm not going to go through much of the theory. We're going to really focus on hands-on activities so that you get a feel of what programming is. The second thing that I believe in is the 80-20 rule. And the idea is that you get 80% of the value from learning 20% of the basics. So we're going to really focus on the fundamentals of data visualization today. And I'll also guide you and show you where you can go to find the extra bits of information. But the focus of this class itself is going to be primarily on the basics. The third thing that I believe passionately about is that peer-to-peer learning is effective, meaningful, and fun. So that's the reason why we have a Discord server app where you can post questions, you can help answer questions. I think this is the kind of learning that is most effective. And there are 2 tools that we're going to be using today. First of all, we're going to be using our Discord server app. So for those who haven't signed up for our Discord server app, you can take a look at the link in the YouTube video itself. Go ahead and sign up for that. But you can also take a look. You can also use this short link to sign up for our Discord server app. So while you get set up, let me show you the key channels that you need to know within our Discord server app. So specifically for this class, we'll be using the in-class programming exercises channel. So you need to take a look at this specific channel, the in-class discussion channel, and specifically the programming exercise tab. So this is the specific place that you can post any questions. This is where you'll be sharing your code with your peers. So this is going to be extremely important. The next channel that I want to show you is the Seabourn Data Visualization Challenge. I'll explain in a brief second what this is. This is where you would be posting the kind of different visualizations that you come up with. I'll explain what this is later on. But for the moment, make sure that you have a Discord server app because we'll be using it for this class. The next tool that we're going to be using is called Replit, which is a browser-based coding environment. So if you key in repl.it, go ahead and sign up for an account if you haven't. Wait, let me ask you, who hasn't signed up for a Replit account yet? If you haven't signed up, just post it on the YouTube channel's comments. Does everybody have a Replit account? Anyone without a Replit account at this stage? All right. If you don't have a Replit account, go ahead and all right, no worries. It's going to just take you 2 minutes. If you don't have a Replit account, go ahead and sign up for an account. So just a bit about Replit. The nice thing about Replit is that it allows you to code in the browser itself. And at the same time, it allows you to share your code with others. Exactly. It's just going to take you a minute. All right. If you haven't, go ahead, sign up. Just use your Google account. It just takes a minute. All right. So if you're in the Replit account already, go ahead. If you would see this red button at the bottom, go ahead, click that, and click Python 3. Everybody, regardless of whether you've created the account or not, whether you, just go ahead, click Python 3. Okay, and then what you need to do is you need to type in import Seabourn as SNS. I'm going to explain what this is. Just go ahead and do that. All right. So go ahead, do that. Second line, just type in print, I am done. Okay. There are two buttons that you need to know if you're new to Replit. First is the run button, which allows you to execute the code. And then the share button, which allows you to share the link with others. So suppose I'm stuck or I want to show my code to others. What I do is I go to the share button, click share link, and then I go to Discord and I can share it in the programming exercises channel. That is how it works. I just wanted to show you the complete flow. All right. So if everyone's on the same page, let's go ahead and let's just run it, and I'll explain what just went on here. All right, great. So let me explain what's going on here. So today we're going to be learning data visualization, and the specific package that we're going to be using is called Seabourn. Seabourn allows you to do really neat graphic visualizations. That's the specific package that we're going to be using. And if you want to use a package in Python, you need to type in import and then the name of the package itself. Because the name of the package can be pretty long, you can use an alias to refer to it. And this is just by convention that Seabourn is referred to as SNS, but instead of SNS, you could type in SNB, SBN. You can use whatever alias you want, but let's just stick to S and S because that's just the convention. And if you use SNS, somebody else who reads your code is going to be able to understand what's going on. So that's just the very first line of code that you need to understand, right? I just want to, some people ask me, would this class be accessible to people who are beginning, who are learning code itself? Absolutely. I'm going to explain every single line of code. So don't worry, you're going to get it as well. It's going to be fine. So that's the very first line of code that you need to understand. The next thing you need to understand is that Seabourn comes with preloaded data sets to begin with. So let me show you what I mean. So if you go to, give me 1 second, let me pull out the data set itself. So when you import the Seabourn package, it comes with certain data sets. And the data set that we are going to be using today is called the tips data set, right? And there are a number of different columns inside it. Let's just take a brief look. You have the total bill, the tip value, the gender, sex, whether somebody's a smoker or not, the day of the week, the time of the meal, whether it's dinner or lunch, and the size of the group. So what we need to do to load this data set into our file is to say tips. We're going to create this variable called tips, right? Equal SNS dot load underscore data set, and then type in tips. So what we just did here was that we created this variable called tips. Think of it as like an object. And we said, look, Seabourn, we know that you have this data set called tips. Go ahead and load it. So from here on, whenever you refer to the variable tips, you're going to be able to get that data set. Is this making sense to everybody? Any questions about this? All right. So let's go ahead and run it again. If you run it again, what you would see is that the data set is going to load up in the file section, right? So now, if you take a look at the file section, right, you can see the tips CSV file. A CSV file is a comma separated value file. Think of it as somewhat similar to an Excel file. You could convert an Excel file into a CSV file. So you see you find that the values have been loaded already. Great. Now, let's say we want to take a look at a bar plot. Let's say we want to know how the tip value varies by the day. Are there specific days in which customers tip more or less? Very simple, just one line of code. So what we do is we create this new variable called bar plot equal SNS. Just go ahead, type it out, and then I'll explain what we just did. Bar plot X equal day and then Y equal tip, and then data equal tips. And then finally, you want to write this bar plot dot here dot save fig a tip dot png. All right, type this out, and I'll explain what just went on here. Okay, so what's going on here is we're saying let's create this bar plot variable where the X axis, which is the horizontal axis, is going to be the day, and the Y axis is going to be the tip. And the data is going to be this variable, right? That's what's going on here. And we're saying, look, go ahead and save this figure, and let's see what happens when we execute this code. All right, great. So what's going on here? Let's take a look here. So what's going on is you find that you get the average tip across the days which are represented in the data set. So you find that generally on the weekends, people tip more than on the weekdays. And just in case you're wondering what this line is, this is called a confidence interval. So because the data can be limited, we don't know exactly what the value is going to be. So this is just an estimate of what the true value can be. So does everybody get this graph? Any issues so far? All right, great. And there are other things that you can do as well. Instead of day, maybe let's take a look at the tips file. And instead of maybe day, maybe we want to look at whether Hi, everybody. All right, I'm back. Sorry, there was a bit of a Wi-Fi issue. All right, I'm back. Let's get back. So does everybody get the same? Let's run this again. All right. So just quick question: any issues with the first graph, the first bar plot graph? All right. It seems like everyone's. It's fine. That's great. Isn't this elegant? Just think about it. I mean, you don't even need this line. This is just for fun. This line number 9. Just with like 4 lines of code, you get some really meaningful results. I think this is pretty elegant. It's beautiful. All right, let's go on. So that's a bar plot. There are many other different kinds of plots. Let's go on to the next kind of visualization that you can use. Okay, so the next type of graph that we're going to be learning is called a box plot. So we just learned how to do a bar plot. We're going to learn how to do a box plot. Some of you may have learned this as a box and whisker plot in high school. So let's learn how to do that right now. So same thing, keep the same tips variable. That doesn't change. But instead of this, we're going to shake this up a little. Let's cancel this. Instead of bar plot, we're going to say box plot equal SNS dot box plot, and then X equal day and Y equal total underscore bill, and the data equal to tips, right? And just as with the previous example, we say box plot dot figure dot save fig, and then you insert the name of the file. Let's say one day underscore tips dot png. Run the file, run the program. This is really neat. And take a look at what we get. We get this box and whisker plot here. And let me explain what's going on here. There are lots of things here. The key thing you need to understand is that the moment you have a box plot, you get the median value, which is the line in the middle. So we're saying that for Thursday, the total bill. So I'm using the total bill as a Y value here, not the tip. So total bill, it's about $15. Friday is slightly lower. Saturday and Sunday, you find that the total bill is slightly higher. So the median is represented by this line in the middle of the box. This line here is the 25th percentile line. So anything below here is the bottom 25%. And this line is the 75th percentile. So anything above here is above 75 percentile. And all these dots that you see here are called the outliers. There's a specific formula to calculate the outliers. You can Google that if you want to. I'm not going to complicate that, but Python does it for us itself. So think of the outliers as values that are way higher than the median, than the 75th percentile. Just think of it as really high values, or it could also be low values as well. So these are the dots that you see here. Right? Has everybody gotten the box plot? All right, great. So that's a box plot. The box plot is pretty neat, but one of the limitations of a box plot is that you don't know exactly how many values are at each specific level. So, for example, on a Thursday, I know that the median total bill is about $15, but exactly how many values are at this level, that isn't exactly clear. So the way that if you want to know those values, how far it's clustered, you need to use what's called a violin plot. So instead of a box plot, let's do a violin plot here. So here's a tip for those who are new to Python. If you want to comment something, if you want to kind of comment something, you just use a hashtag symbol and that hash symbol, and that allows you to comment it out. So let's do a violin plot here, right? Similar thing, violin plot equal SNS.violin plot. And let's say we want to use the same variables, day, and the Y variable, I want it to be total bill. And data equal tips. And then same thing, violin plot dot figure dot save fig. Let's just call it days. Okay, let's run it. Yeah, you get this really fancy looking violin plot. Let me explain what's going on here as well. So what's going on here is that you see the white spot in the center? That's the median value. And unlike a box plot, you find that there's some depth to this, more than depth, I would say breadth to each of these values here. So what that's telling you is that at this level, there are lots of values here. So the breadth symbolizes the number of values at that level. So that's the value of a violin plot as opposed to a box plot. Is the violin plot working fine? Any questions about that? Yeah, so some of you asked, what do I do if I want to load my own data set as opposed to using a preloaded one? I'll explain that at the end of the class. And we also have a fun challenge at the end of the class to kind of stretch your abilities, kind of give you some practice. So for the moment, let's just stick with this preloaded data set and some simple examples, and then later on we'll kick up a notch. Okay. So far we have covered the bar plot, we have covered the box plot, we have also covered the violin plot. Let's say we want to get a count, within the data set itself. Let's say we want to know in how many instances were females represented or males represented, and how many instances were was the meal a dinner as opposed to a lunch. If you just want to get a count of what's called a categorical variable, just get a count, you need to do what's called a count plot. So let me show you how you can do that right now. So to do a count plot, what you do is you create a variable called count plot equal SNS dot plot dot count plot, and then the X variable is going to be the variable that you're interested to get a count of. Let's say I want to get a count of the days that are represented within the data set. So day, and then for data, I'm going to put in the name of the variable, tips, and then let's say count plot dot figure dot save fig, and then the name of the file that you want to save, countday.png. Okay, and let's run it right now. Great. So we find that within the data set, Saturday and Sunday, Saturday seems to be the most represented, Sunday being second, Thursday, and then Friday being the least represented within the data set. And apart from day, you can use other categorical variables like the gender. You can also use the time and so on. So all that is fair game. At this stage, I want to show you how else you can customize your data visualization. So right now, there isn't any title at all, right? And that's not neat. Let's say we want to include a title in our data visualization. So the way that you do that is by saying, so we created this count plot. So what we do then is say count plot dot set title equal days. Right. So what we're doing here is that we're saying, look, within this count plot, set the title to equal days. And let's say we run this again. You find that days pops up. So now you may be wondering, where do I find all these options? How do I know what I can customize, what I can't customize? So the answer to that is that you can find it in the Seabourn API reference. So let me share that link right now. So you can take a look at it right now. I would also share the link with you all in the email later. So if you take a look at the Seabourn package API reference, you can find exactly what you can customize, what you can't customize, and so on. So if you, for example, take a look at the set, actually it tells you that you can, for example, customize the color, you can customize the font. So it tells you exactly what you can customize and what you can customize. So the API reference is the place to go to find out exactly how you can customize these things. And all this while, I want to show you something else that's pretty neat that we can customize. So all this while, we have been using the default color scheme, but there are different color schemes that you can use as well. So to do that, what you do is you put in comma, palette equal, and there are a variety of different palettes. And once again, this is from the API reference. You could say, I want bright. Run. And you find that the colors are going to change in a second. Right? Doesn't look that aesthetically pleasing here, but it's different. You could also try, let's say, pastel, PESTL. And all these options are, you can take a look at the API reference and figure that out. Right? This looks a bit more pleasing. So the key thing is that there are a variety of parameters, things that you can key in to customize your data visualization, but it isn't necessary. Not all these parameters need to be filled up. So if I don't fill this up, I'll just go back to the default. Which is this color set. Okay, any questions? Is everybody getting this so far? Okay, let's get to, I think, what is the most interesting part. A lot of people are interested to take a look at regression analysis, to do a regression analysis, to take a look at the relationship between two variables. So that's the next thing that we're going to be learning right now. So let me show you how that works. So once again, let's keep this tips data set. Let's take all this out. So let's say we just want to get a scatter plot first, right? And then we can get a, try to get a scatter plot first, okay? So what we do is that we say scatter equal SNS dot reg plot. And let's say I want to know the relationship between the total bill and the size of the tip. You know, as the bill increases, does the tip increase or not? Intuitively, you would think yes. Let's see if that holds true. Right. Total bill. Then Y is going to be the tip. And the data is going to be the variable tips. And then we need to say fit reg equal FALSE. And then we say scatter dot figure dot save fig. And we say scatter plot dot png. Okay, let's take a look at this. All right, great. So we see the scatter plot here, right? We find that, broadly speaking, as the bill increases in size, the tip also increases. So that's just a scatter plot. Let's say we want to get a regression line. Very simple. All that we have to do is, let's say we want a regression line. Let's say regression equal, we keep the same thing. We just take this parameter out. Okay, and then just call this regression.png. And this needs to be changed as well. Okay, let's run it. Great, now you see the regression line, right? And you may be wondering, what's this light blue line? That's the confidence interval. So you find that, in fact, as the bill increases, the size of the tip increases as well. Now, I want to pause here just for a second and ask you to try out new regression analyses of your own. And when you're done, click the share button and post it on the programming exercises channel. So take about 5 minutes, go ahead, try out things on your own. There are interesting questions that you can explore. Questions like, as the size of the group increases, does the size of the bill increase? Does it make a difference or not? So go ahead, take a look at the data set, try out new regression analyses of your own, and post it on our Discord server app. And let's come back in about 5 minutes, and I'll go through some of the interesting examples that you all came up with. All right, this is also the time, if you have any questions, post it so that we can help. Yeah, this is a small data set, but I'm going to show you a much bigger data set that we can play with later on. So if you want to know which variables that you can play with in the data set, very simple. Just go to the File section, click the tips.csv, and you see this top column. So this is where you can take a look. Let's spend another 2 more minutes, and then let me show you a more sophisticated data set that you can experiment with later on. All right, 2 more minutes, and let's get back. One more minute, and let's go through some of the examples that our peers came up with, and I'll show you what's another data set that you can practice with, and how you can also plug in your own Excel files and CSV files so that you can do your own analysis. Okay, let's get back. Let me take a look at our programming section exercise. All right, let's see. Okay, I think puny automatic observation, that was an interesting one. All right, let's take a look at this. So we have Michelle White's example here. So let's take a look at what's going on. Let's take away all these comments first. Great. Let's run this. So what Michelle White just did here was she's taking a look at the relationship between the size of the group and the size of the tip. And let's see if there's any difference it makes. Okay, so we take a look at regression.png. Second, it doesn't seem to open up here. Okay, great. So in this case, so this is Michelle's example. So we're taking a look at the regression analysis. We're doing a regression analysis of the size and the tip. So what we find is that as the size of the group increases, the tip also increases. That makes intuitive sense. So just to be clear, this data set that we just saw here is fairly limited. There aren't that many rows of data, and there are not that many columns of data. Now I'm going to show you how you can upload your own files so that you can do your own analysis. So that's what we're going to be covering next. But I just wanted to give you a sense of how you can plug in different values and try it out yourself. So let's go ahead. Let's open up a new Replit. Suppose you want to use your own data. So this is what you need to do. Let me show you how using your own data sets. This is how it would work. So first of all, as usual, we're going to import Seabourn. That's SNS. And then the next thing is there's another package that we need to use. It's called Pandas. We need to, I mean, there are lots of things about Pandas, and it may take a few hours to cover it, but the key thing you need to understand is that Pandas is a package that's used to process data. That's just a very high-level overview of what Pandas is. So we need to import Pandas as PD. That's also a convention. PD is the alias of Pandas. And then next, what we need to do is we need to upload the specific file. So if you want to upload a file in Replit, what you do is that you click this cloud-like symbol here. You click that, and you pick the file that you want to download. So in this case, I've just uploaded this data set called FAA Bird and Wildlife Strike Incident. So this is a fun data set. So just a bit about this data set. So the Federal Aviation Authority requires all airlines to report cases in which birds and wildlife strike the planes. So this data set contains all of that information. So let me just quickly show you the columns inside it. So you have record ID, the type of aircraft, the number of wildlife struck, the effect that it had on the plane. You have the name of the airline operator, which phase of flight, whether the remains were sent to the Smithsonian, the feet above the ground, the number of people injured, and then those are the columns, and then you have all the rows here. So this is a pretty large data set. It has almost about 25,000 rows inside of it. So this is a really solid data set. So if you want to import your own data set, what you need to do is let's create a variable. Let's call it FAA data equal PD dot read underscore CSV. So CSV is the name of the format of the file, comma separated value. So you can save all your Excel files as a CSV format. In programming, they typically use CSV format, but if you want to, you can also read an Excel as an Excel file format, but preferably let's just stick with CSV. And then you insert the name of the file, which in this case is FAA bird strike. Strike and CSV. Cool. Just to make sure that everybody has access to this file, let me just share this with everyone here. So I'm sharing it right now. Let me share that so that everybody has access to the file. Yeah. Cool. Right. Can everybody, I just want to make sure that everybody can run the file and it's working fine and you get the, oh wait. You're going to make sure that, yeah. All right, can everybody open up the FAA data file? All right, I just want to check any issues with opening the file. Okay, it's a pretty large data set, so it could take a little long to load up. Okay, and the key thing I want to emphasize here is that whenever you have a new data set, you want to really focus on the columns. Like you want to understand what are the columns, because that is going to help guide your analysis. And in this case, especially with large data sets, there are lots of variables. You want to take a quick glance to make sense of it. And then you also want to take a look at the rows to get a feel for the data. So that's something you want to do whenever you get a new data set. Has it loaded? Okay, so after you load that up, I just want to show you a very simple analysis that we can do. So we learn how to use a bar plot, box plot, violin plot, count plot, regression. And let's say when you take a look at this data set, you find that there's this very interesting variable called remains of wildlife sent to the Smithsonian. That looks kind of intriguing. And let's say you want to get a count of the number of times in which the wildlife was sent to the Smithsonian and the number of times in which it wasn't sent to the Smithsonian, right? So for that, what do we use? We use a count plot. So let's create count plot equal sns.count plot x equal remains. We need to key in the name of the column. And in this case, it's remains of wildlife sent to Smithsonian. Smithsonian, okay. And then the data is going to be the name of the variable, the data set's variable, which is FAA data. And then if we want it to be saved, count plot dot figure dot save fig. Say count plot. .png. Simplify things, and let's run this. Great, and then you should see this graph pop out. So you find that almost 25,000 instances, the vast majority of cases, the wildlife wasn't sent to the Smithsonian, but there's quite a lot of cases in which it was sent, but it pales in comparison to the cases in which it wasn't sent. So you immediately get a quick sense of the data. And the number of, just given the sheer size of this data set, there are different kinds of hypotheses that you can test out, different kinds of graphs that you can use, and so on. So this is going to be the challenge for everybody. We're kind of running out of time right now. So here's the challenge. Using this data set, given all the things that we have learned, go ahead and come up with whatever visualization that you think of and post the link on the Seabourn Data Visualization Challenge, right? So go ahead, try out based on this specific FAA data set and post it here, post the link here. And after you're done, take a look at what others have done as well. So if you like something, just give it a thumbs up. So this is going to allow you to get some more hands-on practice. So that's going to be the challenge for you all, to apply whatever you have learned on this FAA data set. So that pretty much caps up what just the basics of Seabourn. Next week, I'm going to be running another SQL class, an intro to SQL class. So if you're interested to sign up for that class, here's the link. It's tinyurl.com/let's learn SQL. Right? So I'm going to share that link on our Discord server app as well. So if you're interested to learn SQL, we're going to be learning the basics of SQL next week. So go ahead and sign up for that. And then The subsequent weeks, you're going to have a cybersecurity course. We're trying to get a professor to present just an introduction to the field itself. And then many of you express interest to study machine learning as well. So that's also something that's on the cards. But what you should expect from me is a summary of this class, of all the different plots that we learned. So look out for that email in the next 1 to 2 days, because there's just lots of people who signed up. It takes a little while to get the email sent. So look out for that. So that's going to be arriving in your inbox very soon. And if you have any questions, meanwhile, feel free to message me, post it on our Discord server app. And if you wish to support me, you can visit this link and get me a coffee as well. Thank you so much, guys. Hope you found this helpful.